This is Asake Online. Welcome to Cite View. I am Busani Bafana. Have you had an incident or a situation where you forget something, or you are disoriented, or you are confused, or at times you have a memory lapse and you cannot remember simple basic things that it ends up interfering with your everyday activities? Maybe you could be having dementia. The World Health Organization says about 57 million people in the world are living with dementia globally, and 60% of whom are in the low and middle income countries. Every year, about 10 million people are recorded to actually be having dementia. In Zimbabwe, estimates from the Ministry of Health and Childcare are that there are about 20,000 people who are living with dementia. In this episode, I'll be speaking with Ruth Memeza, an author who has written a book, Not Witchcraft, Not Madness, Facing Dementia in Zimbabwe. Ruth, welcome to the program.
Welcome, Busani. Glad to be here.
Interestingly, what drew you to study dementia, and in particular to write this book about dementia?
I think for me, it started when I worked in the UK. I worked in a care home, and I remember when I started working, I realized that they didn't have an induction program. So what they did was they buddy you with somebody who's been in the business for a while, and they'll take you through the paces, teaching you what needs to be done. And if you are unlucky to be paired with somebody who likes to cut corners and they are not serious about their work, then you are in for a bad time, which is exactly what happened to me. But at that time, I didn't have anything to weigh it against, so I assumed that whatever I was being taught was the right thing. Because I realized that when we were looking after these elderly people, there were things which we were doing which my spirit just didn't resonate with. But I didn't know, I knew it was wrong, but I felt it wasn't in my place to challenge it because I didn't have anything to weigh it against. So I did my job and all that. It was later when I was introduced to dementia awareness, a course, that I realized that there were so many things that I needed to know before looking after the people with dementia. Things, because dementia for me, it was new. When I got to the UK, that's when I discovered that there was this condition called dementia. And to cut a long story short, what came out of that was I believed that people should realize that those people living with dementia are still people. There are certain ways that you should know how to deal with them. There are certain ways that you should know when they start behaving in certain ways, you should be able to identify that there is a problem and that the person is not the problem.
And specifically, what is dementia?
Dementia is a medical term. What they say about dementia is like it's an umbrella term with different conditions under it. Like we've heard of Alzheimer's, frontotemporal dementia, all those fall in Parkinson's disease, they fall under the term dementia. So when somebody has been diagnosed as having dementia, the doctor should be able to pinpoint the type of dementia that they are suffering from.
The title of your book is very interesting. Not Witchcraft, Not Madness. How so?
You know what, Busani, when I came back home from the UK, I realized that dementia was widely spread and people didn't understand about it. And I realized that Ogogo, they were being accused as witches. a lot of people who were exhibiting symptoms of dementia were labeled as mad and put at Engutsheni. And I thought, no, man, people need to understand what dementia is all about. And because of when I was in the UK, I ended up working at Croydon College and Nescott College as a tutor and an assessor. And dementia was one of the mandatory courses. So they had a solid, well-cut training program, which I was doing there. So when I came back, I thought our people needed to know about dementia, just to have an awareness of what it is, so that they'll begin to understand why the people that they love are acting in ways that they don't understand. So I started formulating a program which I wanted to flight right across Zimbabwe for people to understand. I approached the city council and I told them about my vision. They told me that they have about 29 wards in Bulawayo. So at the back of my mind, I was thinking, yeah, it would be a good idea to move from ward to ward, bringing this awareness. And we arranged a program, and I did one covering Baba Fields, Thorngrove, Nguboyenja, Mzilikasi. And it went very well. I had about 35 participants who came to attend that course. It was at the end of it when I was getting feedback from the participants as to how they've been empowered. They started relating their own stories about the people that they are looking after with dementia, and that they didn't know it was dementia, and they were acting in ways that were the ways that were frustrating them and also frustrating the people with dementia. Then I flighted this program out at churches, women's groups. They would call me and I make the presentation just to bring an awareness.
In the second part, really, title of your book, it looks at facing dementia in Zimbabwe. What does facing dementia in Zimbabwe actually really look like? What were you zoning in on there?
The fact that people now are beginning to be aware of what dementia is all about. In Zimbabwe, for me, it was this title of witches and madness being labeled on the elderly. That really hit me hard. So I wanted Zimbabwe to face this on at a holistic level, right up to government, where policy will sort of come in and give a clear guidance as to how this awareness can be brought to people at large.
And what has been your personal experience with dementia?
Sometimes you look after parents and they act in ways you don't understand. And it's very difficult, especially when it hits home. There's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of denial. There's a lot of frustration. So when you find yourself being faced with a situation like that, awareness becomes key. So that at the end of the day, I want everyone in Zimbabwe, when they start facing dementia, they look at the person first and the condition second. It's called person-centered care. Because all that we are saying is we want the person to continue having a good quality of life for as far as possible. And the supporting group, the supporting people around that person must be made aware of what dementia is and how to tackle the situation when they find themselves in it.
What are the signs of dementia?
Dementia is mostly associated with memory loss. It's something that has hit people at a larger extent. And how do people notice that? I always want, when I'm doing my training, I always want to give them an analogy. Say, look at a filing cabinet with its different drawers. So when dementia starts to hit at a person, the memories that go first are the ones at the top. Look at us. When we are growing up, all the memories, the early memories, are being filed in the bottom drawer. As you grow up, you fill up all those drawers. You fill them up. Now, as I'm talking to you, we are looking at the memories in the top drawer. So if I were to be affected by dementia, all the memories in the top drawer will go. That's how it affects. And people will live with old memories. For an example, you find ugogo who's far advanced in their dementia, but they'll remember early days. They'll tell you stories about their own gogo, the stories that their own gogo used to tell them. They'll tell you and give you graphic examples of their wedding day, what happened. And they'll relate the children that they used to play with, but they won't remember what they ate this morning. That's how memory gets affected by dementia.
Yeah, given it's you mentioned it is like a theft really of memory. Is dementia curable, or even is it hereditary?
Unfortunately, there is no cure for dementia at the moment. The drugs that are available at the moment, they merely slow down the progression of the disease. So that is why we are all out to give an awareness to say it shouldn't be about the condition. We should focus on the person.
And how do spiritual and cultural beliefs shape dementia experiences?
It's all about awareness, Busani. Because if people do not know, they'll put a label to anything. Because you find that most of the people who are affected with dementia at the moment, they are told, uyagula, uloyiwe, uyahlanya. And the best way is for us to go and seek, prophets and seek inyanga to come and address that situation. Because they do not know dementia on their loved one hasn't been given a name. So they'll try and justify that condition in ways that are acceptable to them.
And what advice really would you give to even families, who have actually loved ones who are actually affected or living with dementia?
What I would suggest, because it's very key for you to put a name and a label to this condition. If you see your loved one behaving in ways that are not normal, that you realize that their memory is going, go and see a doctor and ask for a diagnosis. Let the doctor diagnose the problem. They've got their own tools that they can use to actually come up with a proper diagnosis. And then you take it from there.
Given we still maintain in Zimbabwe, look at an extended family system, and how does the dementia in a way affect that unity or the operation really of our extended family system?
I realized that when I started another program where I would go, if you say your mother or your grandmother has got a dementia, you come and tell me, and then I say I design a program where I'd come in the home and try and give training to the person who's looking after the person with dementia and the family at large, so that they understand what the condition is all about. I realized that if only one person gets to know about this dementia and they are aware of what is happening and what is not happening, the other family members will not be at the same level. So if the person is talking about dementia and how we should help the person with dementia, you find that one of the family members will be insisting on taking them to a prophet when we are trying to tell them that, no, this is a medical condition which we can approach it a certain way. That can cause friction among family members.
And is there a way really we can reduce the risk of dementia at all?
Yes. There's a lot of information out there where it all hinges. When I was reading about it, it all hinges on looking after yourself. And diet plays a very major role. And keeping yourself busy and active also plays a major role. I'll share with you a certain story which one lady, an 80-year-old lady, told me. She says, as soon she wasn't diagnosed, but she read about dementia and she understood it and the manifestations of it. And she realized that she was having dementia. And she said that she read somewhere that you have to keep your brain active. You have to keep your brain busy. And what she used to do, she says, every day before I go to sleep, I run in my mind all the names of my children. I have 5 of them. I run their names out. And then I run their ages, that, you know, the dates of birth. And then I run through their spouses. And then I run through their children. And if I don't know the children's dates, the following morning, I'll ask for the dates of birth for the children. I write them down and I add them onto my program. And this is what I do every day. And I do a lot of crossword puzzles, and it helps. So I thought I'd share that as one of the things that are helping.
Interesting. And then you write in your book that dementia is a human rights and a gender issue. Why?
You find that in most cases, people with dementia are being looked after by wives, mothers, daughters-in-law, and sisters. Rarely you find a man taking that role. So it is important that when we come to gender, those people need to be taken care of, because most of those people perform those duties without pay. We find that some ladies leave employment to go and look after full-time, give full-time, care for their loved ones. So it's very crucial. And I believe that if this is taken right up to government level, so that a policy is structured that will bring into play dementia, I think we would be on a level playing field in that score.
Yeah, let's say readers of your book, what could they actually do to raise dementia awareness, if at all? What kind of action would you expect people to take?
For everyone to have a hunger for what dementia is all about. Because in all my training sessions, I always want to come up with champions. If I do a training session, I tell myself that I've armed people to be champions of dementia so that they go out and spread the word about dementia.
Yeah. And but before we round off, I want to read an extract from actually your book, something that I found very revealing. You actually state that dementia does not erase a person's worth. Only our failure to understand does. When we choose knowledge, we choose dignity. So what should communities actually do, to restore, as they say, the person's dignity, particularly someone who's living with dementia?
I always hinge on dementia awareness, and that knowledge is power. Because like I said in the beginning, if you do not know what you're doing, you'll continue doing good things for the person, but are they the right things for them? You might be doing good things, but on the other side, you'll be harming that person because you're just doing what you feel is good, but is it the right thing? So by bringing this awareness to people, you are opening their eyes as to how they can empower themselves to look after people living with dementia.
So we need to actually break the silence, about dementia, to have a diagnosis done and ensure that we actually take the care to bring love, comfort, and relief to people living with dementia.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was speaking with Ruth Memeza, an author of the book, Not Witchcraft, Not Madness, Facing Dementia in Zimbabwe. Thank you so much, Ruth, for sharing your experiences. I then wonder, where and when can we buy your book?
The book is recently published, and we're trying to locate bookshops in which to place them. But we've got Dingani Bookshop. I think it's at the corner of 13th Avenue and 4th Street. There we'll have copies of the book. And also we'll have some at the airport. The bookshops at the airports will also stock some of the books.
This is Asake Online. This was Cite View. Thank you for joining us on this episode. Remember to follow us on all our social media platforms at Cite ZW. I am Busani Bafana.